Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. I'm Finn Macdiarmid and here are your top stories on Friday the 11th of April. Bobby's on the beat. Kent Police is bringing back named officers to neighbourhood patrols across the county. Environment versus electricity. Campaigners are warning the new Pegwell Bay connection could damage local ecology. And don't put all of your eggs in one basket. We share some budget-friendly ways to enjoy Easter across Kent without cracking your wallet. But first tonight, named police officers are set to return to Kent's towns in the coming months as part of a major government shake-up. The Prime Minister has pledged to recruit 3,000 new neighbourhood police officers and PCSOs across the next year, aiming to crack down on antisocial behaviour. But in towns like Sittingbourne, where street crime continues to rise, will these changes actually make a difference? Kristen Hawthorne has been finding out.
A transformation in neighbourhood policing.
Thousands of new police officers are set to hit the streets as part of the government's plan to tackle antisocial behaviour across England and Wales.
We'll deliver 13,000 new neighbourhood officers by 2029. And today I can announce the first step, 3,000 new neighbourhood officers by the start of next year. All of them visible, on the beat and serving their communities. And from this July, so just a few months' time, every neighbourhood will have a named contactable officer. They'll have guaranteed police patrols in town centres and hotspots, particularly at peak times like Friday and Saturday nights.
With the announcement of the increase of thousands of more officers being placed across Britain to tackle antisocial behaviour, I'm wondering how many of these will be placed in Kent and if it will be able to make a difference to the safety of those in the county.
We'll be putting an additional 65 officers into our neighbourhood policing teams. They'll be deployed in every district across the county, tackling crime and antisocial behaviour in our town centres.
Here in Kent, concerns about antisocial behaviour are already running high. In Sittingbourne, some residents have even started forming anonymous road crews on WhatsApp to deter crime, saying police simply aren't responding quickly enough.
So visibility for policing is hugely important. We know it's an incredibly crucial part of the public's perception of policing. I would advise anyone who is considering taking part in or setting up a so-called road crew not to do so. Apart from anything else, they haven't made themselves aware to us. We don't know where they're operating. But I would say I recognise the strength of feeling that people have when they're affected by antisocial behaviour. And I would ask anyone who is to come forward and tell us what's happening, let us know so that we can understand the picture of that and do something about it together. And I certainly want to work with community groups, residents associations and others to provide sustainable solutions to some of those issues.
But it's not just more police officers that will be introduced to the county, but named ones for each area as well, which MP Kevin McKenna thinks will help to tackle the issues.
Right now, people aren't sure who to speak to in the police. Once there's a named neighbourhood team, they'll know who to go to. Once there's an accountable person for antisocial behaviour, they will know who to contact and say, look, we've got this whole problem in our area of antisocial behaviour, ASB. It's about when people really see the difference. So I'm hoping that once we get these named officers, these named neighbourhood policing teams, these named antisocial behaviour officers in, it will start to be, people will, right, that's who I go to. That's how I do it. And people will start to see a difference.
While some locals in Maidstone told me they don't think neighbourhood policing will make a difference, the government are hoping that bits on the ground will finally bring long-term change. Kristen Hawthorne for KMTV in Maidstone.
Supporters, players and staff gathered to pay tribute at the funeral of Sheppey United manager Ernie Batten following his passing earlier this year. The town loved him. He guided the club to 2 promotions, lifted 4 trophies, led them to 6 finals, and many even credit him with saving Sheppey United from losing its ground in the early 2000s. I went to Holm Park, the home of Sheppey United, to find out more.
Every supporter will also agree with me. Without Ernie Batten, this football club wouldn't be here today.
Today, Sheppey said goodbye to their beloved manager, owner, chairman and to many in the football club and the town, a friend. He passed away last month, aged 67, and ahead of his funeral today, fans lined the street outside the Sharrock Stadium at Holm Park to honour their most successful manager.
When he took over as owner and also as manager, he's given the Isle of Sheppey so many memories that live on forever. We got to the first round of the FA Cup proper last year, which was live on ITV. In all the club's history, you'd never, that was only a dream. It was just in the pipeline. You never expected it to be part of your lifetime. And thanks to Ernie, we can cherish that memory for a long time.
Now, Sheppey United has plenty of club legends, but today they're honouring Ernie Batten. He got them 2 promotions, 4 trophies, and earned them a place in 6 different finals. But it wasn't just his achievements with the team that mattered, it was also his dedication to the club. And locals tell me that Sheppey United and Holme Park wouldn't have been here without him. Before the turn of the century, Sheppey United were nearing their end. They'd sold their home ground, Botany Road, to developers in the early 90s to clear a huge overdraft debt. With no home stadium and attendances falling, the team disbanded. But when former player turned owner and manager Ernie Batten purchased and improved the current ground of Holme Park, revived the senior team and brought the club more victories than it had ever seen before, no one on the Isle or off it would disagree that Ernie was Sheppey's greatest manager.
Well, Ernie Batten, obviously, when he left school early, he started playing semi-professional football, and he's done a lot of football, played for a lot of clubs and all things like that. And obviously, he come back, and this ground here, as you can see here, wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Ernie Batten. But Ernie put all the money in, Ernie paid for the pitch and all that and everything, yeah, and slowly built the club up.
Lee said that Ernie was a shy, reserved man by nature, but would have appreciated the support of the town, whether it was fans at the procession or the funeral itself.
It's the busiest funeral I've ever been to. There were people standing at the back. There were people sitting on sides. We could have easily filled a second crematorium site today. I've just come back to the wake and the clubhouse is packed.
The club themselves said, "You made our dreams come true, Ernie. Your legacy lives forever. Good night, Gaffer." Finn Macdiarmid for KMTV in Sheppey. Well, let's dive into this week's health headlines from across the county. From salvia tests to that help identify prostate cancer risks to the UK's first baby born following a womb transplant. Dr. Julian Spinks joined Abby and Bartholomew on the morning show earlier to break down all the headlines.
Saliva tests could identify the risk of prostate cancer. How exactly does that work?
This test is a genetic test. So it doesn't look for cancer itself, it looks for the genes and the things that are associated with prostate cancer. And the saliva looks for about 130 different genes. And if you've got the right pattern of them, it would suggest you have a higher risk of having prostate cancer, and then you go in to do screening. It's relatively new, and there's going to be a little bit of time before we can work out how best to use it. Some of the preliminary tests show it makes a difference, but not an enormous difference in predicting prostate cancer. And it's because we have a real problem with prostate cancer. The tests we have at the moment are not ideal. Prostate-specific antigen, PSA, which is the most common test used, has a very high false positive rate. It also misses some cancers, and that's not an ideal way of screening. The evidence is pointing towards the way we should be using it, particularly for people of a higher risk. So it may be a combination of that plus this new test will mean that we limit the number of people having to have invasive tests, but also pick up more of the cancers early.
And some more health headlines this morning. I'm going to jump through them. There's one we've seen. I think we can get the picture up on the screen now. A NHS stamp. Can you explain to us exactly what this is? What's it for?
Yes. Well, this is because of the problem people have. We all know these days post isn't as reliable. And I have patients who contact me and say, you know, that urgent appointment I was due to have, I got the actual letter telling me when it was the day after the appointment. And whilst you can send emails and all these other things, there are some people, particularly older people, still depending on it. So the government has negotiated with the post office effectively an NHS postal rate. So there'll be second class, first class and NHS class, so that particularly urgent letters get priority. They're sorted out automatically and will go through first through the system. And also if there's a strike, it'll ensure that these particular letters are delivered even though other letters won't be.
Let's talk about another health headline that's made some of the papers and the news outlets this week. A miracle baby girl has become the first child in the UK to be born to a mother using a donated womb. Tell us a bit more about this, because Grace, her name's Grace Davidson, she was born without a functioning uterus. She actually got her sister's womb back in 2023, and it was the UK's only successful womb transplant.
Yes, it's like science fiction, isn't it, really? It's giving an option to people like that person who didn't have a womb to start off with. So it wasn't a question of being ill or anything like that. It just wasn't there. And very kindly, a sister donated the womb. There have been transplants that have happened in other parts of the world, including ones from sort of dead bodies, like you would transplant kidneys and hearts and so on. The tricky bit is womb is it's seemingly a simple organ, but it actually does a complex function. So to produce something that can support a pregnancy, to allow a fetus to develop and so on, is not so easy. It's at the moment being supported by a sort of charitable trust. So the NHS is not doing this at the moment, and I get the impression it's likely to be very, very expensive.
Now, apologies for pronunciation issues in the link to the last item. I was meant to say saliva testing, so maybe Dr. Julian Spinks might need to test my eyesight. Now it's time for a quick break, but here's what's coming up. Passengers say an alleged catapult attack targeted 2 buses in Kent, leaving passengers particularly shaken on board. Conservationists slam a new national grid connection planned for Pegwell, warning it could severely damage local ecology. And we'll share some budget-friendly ways to celebrate Easter without breaking the bank. And we'll have all that and more right after this very short break. See you soon. Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. Now, a group of children are suspected to have launched a catapult attack on 2 buses, leaving passengers terrified. Pictures show smashed windows on 2 Arriva services with glass scattered across the seats. The bus driver called for a replacement, but when it arrived, it allegedly met the same fate. Thankfully, no one was sitting near the windows and no one was injured. Police say they're exploring all available lines of inquiry. Now, we often report issues of littering on country lanes or in town centres across Kent, but take a look at this. This footage shows the moment a man throws McDonald's rubbish over the fence and into someone's garden in Maidstone. The homeowner returns after a weekend getaway to find cardboards, napkins, bags and sauce smeared over the front garden. What's more, this was next to her wheelie bin. Unfortunately for the resident, CCTV didn't pick up the number plate, but it has increased calls for more cameras to be installed around fast food outlets. Now, campaigners are warning that plans to build an underwater cable linking Kent and Suffolk would be a death warrant for protected wildlife. The Sea Link project aims to increase the flow of renewable energy, but involves laying cables more than 2 kilometres long to the site of new converters and substations to be built on Minster marshes. Electricity demand is expected to increase by 50% by 2035, and the National Grid says that this means infrastructure upgrades are needed. Daisy Page has the story.
The existing electricity network in both Suffolk and Kent, which was originally built in the 1960s, needs upgrading. The National Grid has proposed the planning of the Sea Link, which will connect the 2 counties through a subsea cable. And a Kent wildlife charity fear that the fitting of the cable will cause irreversible damage.
We're worried about our local seal population. We have Kent's largest land haul-out seal site here, just 100 metres away from where they're proposing to start tunnelling. Some of the vulnerable migratory birds that fly thousands of miles to get here every year, and they need time on the mudflats undisturbed to basically feed and kind of regain energy so that they can continue their journey.
The Trust said that they support the need for renewable energy, but not when it comes to the cost of wildlife. Through their campaign, Rethink the Sea Link, they are asking the National Grid to look at alternative route options, as they fear the cost is being considered over the impact of the environment. But National Grid say that Pegwell Bay provides the most balanced option for the project.
We've done extensive surveys over a number of years, and we've consulted 4 times with local communities and statutory authorities and statutory bodies. We've looked at various options around different areas to bring the cable onshore in Kent and different converter site locations. And what we've selected is what we believe on balance is the most appropriate site that balances the ecology, not just in Pegwell Bay, but throughout the entire route, and also to provide a solution that's still value for money for British consumers.
While residents understand the need for the cable, they share concerns over the impact it could have on the environment.
4 things. One is about Pegwell Bay itself, which is a very special and beautiful area. I think the second thing I would say is recognising that as a country, as a nation, we need more electrical infrastructure as we move from fossil fuels to renewables. The third thing is whether this is the best place, the best location to bring this cable ashore. And I think the last thing to say would be, if it goes ahead, then how can the adverse impact be minimised during the construction phase and also afterwards?
The Sea Link also has plans to build inland. Minster Marshes has been described as a superhighway for nature, as it connects Pegwell Bay to the rest of the south east, but it's here where the National Grid has proposed the planning for their converter and their substations. The location is a drained marsh which is used for agriculture, and the National Grid said it was the only option after a failed search for a suitable brownfield site. There's a little more than 3 weeks left for the Planning Inspectorate to decide whether to move the National Grid's application to the next stage. Then the public can have their say on how the landscape looks for generations to come. Daisy Page for KMTV.
Now it's time to take a look at the weather. Tonight, clear skies are expected with temperatures ranging from 7 to 11 degrees across the county. Into tomorrow morning, we'll have some very nice weather to start your weekend, with the sun shining at 14 degrees in some areas. In the afternoon, temperatures will rise to highs of 21 degrees, wind speeds ranging from 12 to 7 miles per hour. Now, here's your outlook. Partly cloudy weather expected across the board. Highs of 17 on Sunday and 16 at the start of next week. Bit unfortunate, I was hoping for just a little more sun. Now, don't forget, you can keep up to date with all of the latest stories across Kent by logging on to our website, that's kmtv.co.uk. There, you'll find all our reports, including this one about rescue chickens.
It's fact that you can't make an omelette without breaking a couple of eggs. But it's also true that chickens can't be happy without a proper home, which is what Fresh Start for Hens in Alresford are providing for the whole coop by letting the public register and collect them. Fresh Start for Hens are here in Alresford to donate all the chickens they've rescued to new forever homes. These hens have retired from commercial use and would have traditionally been put to slaughter if not for charities like this. The birds being donated are the egg-laying kind, meaning they're not fit for human consumption because unlike broiler hens, they don't have much meat on their bones.
These hens weren't rehomed, they would go to slaughter, and they're only 72 weeks. They've got a good few years of egg laying left in them, and they've got personalities, they're friendly, they've got a lot of life to live, so they don't deserve to be killed.
Speaking to volunteers, they talked about the benefits owning these types of chickens can bring.
So I've kept chickens for about 4 years now. I have quite a few. I think most people who own chickens realise that once you have one chicken, it's very easy to start getting more chickens. They call it chicken math. So I actually have about 70 chickens now in my garden, and they are fantastic. We love fresh eggs every day, and they're great. The kids, I have 2 children, and they absolutely love them.
Fresh Start for Hens are also encouraging more people to get involved with the scheme, as they're looking to return with more chickens on the 8th of March.
People, please, if you can, support us by supporting the hens by rehoming if you can. We just ask you to register on our website, which is www.freshstartforhens. Ask for a minimum donation of £2.75 a hen. We ask for pictures of your setup. We have a wonderful backup system where someone is always available to give help and advice. You're not on your own. We have vets, so fantastic. It is so worth it.
With many more birds in need of homes, Fresh Start for Hens are hoping more people take up their feathered friends for the upcoming spring season. Henry Luck for KMTV in Alresford.
Now, like projecting a JPEG of some Easter traditions behind you, there's many ways across Kent to enjoy a cheaper Easter weekend with your children. This year, experts estimate that families will spend a total of £1.5 billion. So with the school Easter holidays in full swing, what activities can we do to make some decorations for the holiday while still being mindful of our money? Well, Daisy joined Abby and Bartholomew earlier to decorate some eggs.
We have a table full of decorations of eggs. I think we can get a close-up look at that.
I always like to bring a little bit of chaos to the morning show, don't I?
And we love it. What's going on? Take us through this.
It is estimated that the average person in the UK will spend around £37 this Easter.
Wow.
I think when we go to the shops and we're seeing the price of eggs, we can kind of understand why. Even though there are a range, you can get some for £1, but you can always get some for £10 as well. So it is depending on what you're picking. However, with Easter holidays happening right now, as we know, sometimes it can be quite hard to find some activities that are cost-effective or even free. So if you like to pick an egg, we have a whole egg to be working with. Usually it's kind of a fun game when you're eating your boiled eggs because obviously you're kind of wanting to keep as much shell as possible. These are quite little eggs today. So you can just work around kind of start decorating them. It's completely free on how you would like to decorate them. Some people like to do flowers, some people just like to paint an egg one colour, some people like to do spots, stripes, all things like that. So let your creative freedom flow. I actually had quite a creative idea of using felt. I've never used felt before, so it might be a bit hit and miss, but we can do a judge and see who the audiences thinks is the best egg by the end of this
Yeah, we can.
Okay, this is gonna be
Today.
fun.
I'm hoping that once these dry as well, you'll still be able to crack them and eat them as well and not waste them.
So one of
warming up.
getting some practice in.
Okay.
So you can start.
I'm so tempted just to draw a face on it.
You can start. So another way, obviously, these are just some things that I found lying around my home. So if you want to take it even more the step of eco-friendly, you can actually dye your eggs with food. So things like red cabbage, if you boil it, add a bit of vinegar, you get like a red kind of looking sauce from it. If you put your eggs in that for around 30 minutes, it will dye them a purpley red colour. And you can do this with all different foods lying around your house as well. Obviously that one can be a bit more time consuming and maybe a little bit less creative, but I did see this thing that if you're dyeing your eggs, you can always stick flowers to them, put them in some like thin cloth, dip them in, and then once they've dried, you can take the flowers off and they're printed with flower prints. So
very nice.
That's quite pretty.
Are you doing a self-portrait there?
Yeah, I caved in and I did do a face.
Hold it up to this camera too.
Can you hold it up to this camera? There we go.
You might have to stand up. Can anyone see that?
He's happy. He's happy.
Some brilliant artistic impressions there from our presenters. Well, you've been watching Kent Tonight live here on KMTV. There's more news made just for Kent throughout the evening. Don't forget, you can always keep up to date with the latest news across your county by logging on to our website. You can also keep us on our social timelines by liking us on Facebook and following us on Twitter. Good night.